Hello all, welcome to this lecture session on fluid dynamics part 2. In this lecture session we are going to see the Bernoulli's equation for real fluids, how the particular losses are considered, and then what are the various applications of Bernoulli's theorem. In last lecture we have seen the basics of the fluid dynamics, means what is the meaning of fluid dynamics, then how it is applied on a particular constituent of fluid, then how the fluid as a continuum is been expressed, and also how the Bernoulli's equation is derived from the Euler's equation, and some problems were solved based on the basics of the Bernoulli's theorem for an ideal incompressible fluid. So now, in today's lecture, as I have seen, as I have explained earlier, that we are going to see the Bernoulli's equation for real fluids. But before that, let's see how the Bernoulli's equation was being experimented by the scientist Bernoulli. Okay, so I welcome you to this video. My name is S.A. Vani. I am assistant professor in Department of Mechanical Engineering in Padma Bhushan Vasantrao Dada Patil Institute of Technology, Budgaon. So let's go for our first slide, how the Bernoulli's equation or how the Bernoulli's experiment was done. So basically, this Bernoulli's experiment setup is like this. It consists of a reservoir, and from the reservoir the water is to be pumped to the inside system. The main important constituent of this particular setup is this test section. This test section, you can observe that at the start there is an increased area, then this area, the increased area goes towards the middle of this cross section, and then there is a reduction in the area. Then again there is an increase in the area of the cross section, and again the area is increased up to this end. At inlet and outlet the areas are constant, otherwise there is a change in area in all these systems. So for that, during our lecture of the pressure measurement, if you will see, there was a object or a system, or we can say a device, which was measuring the head on that particular section. So that was piezometric tube. So you will see here that there are some piezometric tubes attached here. So basically, if the number of piezometric tubes are more, then it will give us the accurate readings. Then when the water is pumped from this particular reservoir to this end of the section here, therefore the water will be stabled in this particular tank first, and after that, as there is an opening in this particular tank, the water is going to flow through this cross section area. So what will happen is, as there is a continuous change in the area, there will be the rise in water level in the particular piezometric tube. Now what we will do here is, if you suppose measure these tubes, we get around 6, and this 6, around 14 tubes are there here. So all the 14 tubes will have 14 cross sections. When we are deriving a equation, we have taken two sections, like one section 1 and section 2 for Bernoulli's equation. Here the equation will be increased up to section 1 to up to section 14, because 14 tubes are there. Now what happens is, we have to see that as the area at section 1, suppose this is the section 1 pipe, so as the area at section 1 is more, then the velocity will be less. But as at the same time, the area as compared to section 1 in section 2 is less, so their velocity will be more. So what does the Bernoulli's theorem tells us? That it directly gives us that the total energy at section 1 will be equal to total energy at section 2 and up to total energy at section 14. So for evaluating this particular performance, here as the pipe is horizontal, therefore naturally what will happen is Z1 to Z14 will be equal. Z1, Z2, Z3 up to Z14 will be equal. So it is eliminated in the particular equations. Then for calculating total energy at section 1, it will be P1 by W plus V1 square by 2G. That will be equal to P2 by W plus V2 square by 2G. And that will be so on. It will go up to P14 by W divided by V14 square divided by 2G. So when we are going to see the profile of this particular system, the water will be collected in this collecting tank here. This is the collecting tank. and here we can calculate the time required for a particular height of water. So it will give us the particular value of actual discharge, because volume divided by time, it is nothing but meter cube per second, so we get a discharge. We have seen that in the theory of rate of flow. So this experiment will give us the velocity profile, then the head profile. Now see guys, that this piezometric tube is open to atmosphere, right? So how the value, that is the pressure energy, will be P by W. So if in this pipe it is P1 by W, so remember this, that P1 is the pressure acted by that particular water on that particular surface, or at the same time the atmospheric pressure is acting. So therefore atmospheric pressure acting in downward direction, so that is P1 divided by W. Now how this divided by W comes? Because the specific weight of water is there and water is rising against the gravity, right? So therefore it is P1 into 1 by W. So it becomes P1 by W. So we get this value as P1 by W, because the water is going against the gravity and P is acting at the top side. So we get here as P by W. Similarly, we get for these all equations. Now see, with the help of this laser pointer, I am going to draw the velocity profile. Okay, so this velocity profile will be like this, straight for the particular value of pressure. Then as the area is less here, therefore the velocity will be more here. So the velocity profile will be like this. It will increase up to this and then it will decrease from again here, because the area is increased again. Okay, see again the velocity profile like this. This is the velocity profile of the water in that particular Bernoulli's experiment. So this is the particular way in which that Bernoulli's theorem has been developed, and this experiment was performed in order to just prove that the total energy is constant in all the cross sections of a pipe. Then going for the next point here, Bernoulli's equation for a real fluid. Okay, now up till now we have seen for ideal fluid, so now we have to go for real fluid. So it was earlier derived based on the assumption that fluid is non-viscous and therefore frictionless, right? Now practically all fluids are real. Now here comes our point, that all fluids are real and therefore they are viscous fluids, and therefore there is always some losses in fluid flows. These losses are therefore taken into consideration in the application of Bernoulli's equation, which gets modified for real fluids as follows between sections 1 and 2. So this is the value. See the equation again. P1 by W plus V1 square by 2G plus Z1 is equal to P2 by W plus V2 square by 2G plus Z2 plus HL. So what is this HL now? This HL is nothing but the loss of energy of section between 1 and 2. Now basically whenever we are particularly taking the application of that Bernoulli's equation, this Bernoulli's equation will give us the value of the head loss due to friction. So this is the HL which we were talking about. This is the HL, that is head loss due to friction. This is added. Now whenever we have to write the Bernoulli's equation for a real fluid, then the whole equation will come into existence. When we have to find out the value for ideal fluid, then only the equation will be up to Z2. So this is the difference between the Bernoulli's equation for a ideal fluid and Bernoulli's equation for a real fluid. Okay. Then next, what are the practical applications now of Bernoulli's equation? Where to apply this particular equation? First, we'll just take a look at this particular devices. This is a venturimeter, which has some cross sections like convergent section, throat section, and divergent section. So this is one application of Bernoulli's equation. Second one, you can see here that this is a orifice meter. Orifice is nothing but a hole inside a particular pipe or a small opening through which the water is flowing. So whenever it is attached to a particular manometer or pressure measurement device, then it is known as a orifice meter. Then third one, this is a pitot tube, which again gives us the value of the particularly rise in the particular temperature, pressure of the water. Then fourth, now this is the familiar point, which is the measurement of the fluid in the dam constructions or in wherever the amount of fluid is larger. There at that point you can see this V shape, right? This V shape is nothing but a notch. This is known as notch. So these notches which are there, there will be a rectangular notch also and there will be a V notch also. And another types of the applications of Bernoulli's equation are these types. These are rotameters or the liquid levels measurement. So these are the flow levels measurement. So therefore these are the various applications of Bernoulli's equation. Okay. Although Bernoulli's equation is applicable in all problems of incompressible flow where there is involvement of energy considerations, but here we will discuss the various measuring devices. Now first, the practical application which are used in a very large quantity mostly are venturimeters. So first is venturimeter. Then second application of Bernoulli's equation which we have discussed earlier, that is orifice meter. Then third one is rotameter, or we can also say it as elbow meter. Fourth one is a pitot tube, and the fifth one are the notches which are used for the higher flow measurement devices. So basically all these particular devices will be helpful in measuring the flow rate of the system, and as at the same time it will also measure the pressure which is available at that particular point, or wherever we require to measure the pressure, at that point we can connect these all devices, so in order to get the accurate flow rate and also to measure the flow rates. So let's see venturimeter first. The equation of venturimeter first we will see. Basically when we are learning this venturimeter, we should always see its application first. It is the application of Bernoulli's theorem, right? So this Bernoulli's equation will be used. This is the construction of a venturimeter, how the venturimeter is there. So first we will see that this shaft section which is shown here is nothing but a pipe, and here also it is a pipe. So therefore the diameter d1 is nothing but the constant at that. So therefore what is happened here is, this is the one section of pipe and this is the another section of pipe. So in between these two sections we have employed venturimeter, right? Now venturimeter, you can see always while construction of the venturimeter, we should always see that the convergent section is having a smaller area while divergent section is having a larger area. Why this is so, we will explain. Then these blue color pipes you can see here, these are nothing but manometers. For reference of manometers, you can refer our previous lectures of manometers or of pressure measurement. You can be it will be very easy for you to understand. So here it is section 1 and section 2, that is throat section, and one is convergent section. So for a venturimeter, it is divided into three particular areas. First is a convergent part area, second is a throat area, and third is the divergent part. Okay. Now whenever the water is placed from that particular diameter of the pipe, it is first passed through venturimeter and then it is going through outside. So during its flow there are various pressure changes, and these pressure changes are taken up by the manometer, and during this, with the help of this particular value of H, we can find out that how much discharge is flown through this particular pipe via venturimeter. So you can see that at convergent section the inlet part is given here, and from the divergent section the outlet will be there, or at the same time the water will be flowing through throat section. Okay. Now always see that in this throat section is of constant area, and divergent section is there. This divergent section will have the increasing length also and increasing area, while convergent section will be of decreased area. First always keep in your mind that. Also for determining the venturimeter first, there are chances that you can employ this venturimeter in the opposite direction, where divergent section will be here and convergent here. Then there are chances that the pressure will not be created. This also we will explain further. Now what happens is, when the water enters in this convergent section, there is a reduction in area. So at the same time, there as the area is reduced, naturally the amount of pressure will also be reduced, and therefore the water has to pass through this smaller constant area of throat. So there is a pressure change which is observed by the manometer difference. Initially the head was this much, and when the water entered into the throat section, it entered this much. Now what happens is, in order to keep the same pressure which was there initially in this diameter of pipe, then there is an increasing area of this particular divergent part. Now what will happen is, as the water is passing through this divergent section, as it is passed through a constant area, naturally up to this much area it will flow in that particular area of the throat only. Then after some time, when it reaches here, then the increase in pressure will start. Now if we had given the same area like convergent section to divergent section, then the pressure would not have been increased, or the pressure would not have been equaled as it was there in the initial side of the pipe. So it is always seen that the divergent section will have more area than convergent section, because to exhibit the pressure properties as it were there in the initial section of the pipe. And due to this, the pressure is constant at inlet and outlet of the venturimeter, and so the section is like this. While drawing the venturimeter, keep in mind that convergent section is a reducing area and it is having a lower length also, and divergent section is of increasing area and having a higher length as compared to convergent section. So mostly it is around 1.5 to 2 times greater than the area of convergent section. And throat ratio, or we can say throat area, depends upon D2 by D1 is varying around 1.4 to 3.4 as compared to the size of the pipe. So D2 is area of throat and D1 is the area at inlet of the convergent section, or we can also say that area of inlet of pipe. So now let's see what is the equation, or how the derivation of this particular discharge equation will be done. First, see all the parameters. D1 is the inlet of the convergent section, or we can say the diameter of pipe. H is the pressure difference from D1 to D2, or we can say from the inlet to the throat section. D2 is the diameter of the throat, and these are the three parts: convergent section, throat, and divergent section for this particular venturimeter. So now let's go for the next part. A venturimeter is most of the important practical applications of Bernoulli's theorem. It is an instrument which is used to measure the rate of discharge, or we can say rate of flow, in a pipeline, and is often fixed permanently at different sections of the pipeline to know the discharges there. It has been named after the 18th century Italian engineer Venturi. There are various types of venturimeters. There are horizontal venturimeters, there are vertical venturimeters, and inclined venturimeters. So see guys that according to its location in the pipe, these types of venturimeters are determined as horizontal, vertical, and inclined. Then for finding out the equation, first horizontal venturimeters, the same diagram which we have employed here, because in further parts we are going to see some problems based on vertical venturimeters and the inclined venturimeters. So is this concept clear to you now, the working of venturimeter, convergent section, throat, and divergent section? Okay, then if this particular point has not been cleared, again we will take the working of this. The water is entering through this convergent section with the help of pipe, and when it is entering here, due to the reduction in the diameter of the convergent section, there is an increase in velocity. At the same time, there is a reduction in pressure. Then the water passes through throat, so there is a pressure difference created from convergent to throat. Initially the pressure was larger, then the pressure was lower. Then as the water passes through throat section, it has to pass through divergent section to go in the next part of the pipe. So in order to keep that pressure constant from the inlet to outlet, the diameter of the divergent section has been increased gradually, and the length also has been increased. So due to that, what will happen is the pressure will be constant at inlet and outlet of the venturimeter. Okay. Then going for the next part, that is the derivation. Okay. Now let's see the derivation. Now we know that the figure is showing a venturimeter in a horizontal pipe. Okay, so let D1 is diameter at inlet, or we can say at section 1,1. A1, what will be A1? A1 will be the area at inlet. So we know that area of a circle, that is pi by 4 d square, or we can say for the circumference, that is 2 pi r. So therefore it is pi by 4 d1 square. So the two values other than area and diameter are pressure. Let P1 is pressure at section 1 and let V1 is velocity of fluid at section 1. Okay. Then other parameters D2, A2, P2 and V2 are, these are the corresponding values, that is diameter, area, pressure and velocity at section 2. So is this clear now? These are just the considerations: D1, A1, P1 and velocity V1, and D2, A2, P2 and V2. Okay. So now as while solving the equations, or while performing derivations for this particular devices, we know that these devices are based on the Bernoulli's. These are the applications of Bernoulli's theorem. So naturally the Bernoulli's theorem or Bernoulli's equation should be employed. So applying Bernoulli's equation at sections 1 and 2, we get general equation. This is P1 by W plus V1 square by 2G plus Z1 is equal to P2 by W plus V2 square by 2G plus Z2. Okay. Now, as the venturimeter was horizontal, we have considered a horizontal venturimeter. So there is no any elevation. So Z1 and Z2 are equal. So they can be eliminated from this particular equation. So hence, Z1 is equal to Z2 since the pipe is horizontal. So the equation becomes P1 by W plus V1 square by 2G is equal to P2 by W plus V2 square by 2G. Right? Now what we will do is, we will take the pressure terms at one side and velocity terms at other side. So when we rearrange this equation, we get P1 by W minus P2 by W. So we have written this equation, P1 minus P2 by W is equal to V2 square by 2G, and this positive V1 square minus 2 divided by 2G will be negative negative V1 square by 2G. So the equation, when rearranging, we get P1 minus P2 by W is equal to V2 square by 2G minus V1 square by 2G. Then, as P1 minus P2 by W is nothing but the difference of pressure heads at section 1 and 2. And what we have denoted for that, we have denoted that as equal to H, right? The difference of the pressure heads of the two limbs of the manometer was equal to H in the diagram of the venturimeter. So therefore, P1 minus P2 by W can be substituted as H. So substituting this value, we get, now instead of P1 minus P2 by W, we have written H. So H is equal to V2 square by 2G minus V1 square by 2G. Now what we have to do here is applying continuity equation at sections 1 and 2. Now we know that when the continuity equations at section 1 and 2 is equal to A1 V1 is equal to A2 V2. So for that, we will find the velocity at V1. So rearranging this equation again, we get V1 equal to A2 V2 divided by A1, right? So substituting this value of V1 in this above equation, in the equation of this, that is the third equation of H. So we get H equal to, now see, H equal to V2 square by 2G kept as it is minus. Now instead of this V1 square by 2G, what value we have to put here? Instead of this V1, now we have to put A2 V2 by A1. So V1 square will be A2 V2 divided by A1 square divided by 2G. So what we have written here now again, when we evaluate this value, just see V2 square by 2G minus, now what values we will get here? A2 square, V2 square, A1 square divided by 2G. So therefore, V2 square by 2G can be kept constant from both these equations. So V2 square by 2G into bracket 1 minus, what will remain here only? A2 square divided by A1 square. So this is H equal to V2 square by 2G 1 minus A2 square by A1 square. Now again, re-evaluating this particular value. So H is equal to V2 square by 2G into bracket this A1 square minus A2 square divided by A1 square. So now we are again interested in calculating V2. So therefore V2 square will be kept here. So V2 square is taken at the left hand side. So what we will get the value now here? 2G into H divided by this value will be reversed. So 2GH divided by into bracket A1 square divided by A1 square minus A2 square. See the step again. H is equal to V2 square by 2G minus, now here it was V1 square, so V1 is nothing but A2 V2 divided by A1, so here A2 V2 divided by A1 bracket square divided by 2G, so which is equal to V2 square by 2G 1 minus A2 square by A1 square. So H2 is equal to V2 square by 2G, here A1 square is multiplied here, so A1 square minus A2 square divided by A1 square. So we have to find V2 value. So V2 is kept at the left hand side. So V2 square is kept at left hand side is equal to, now here it will be 2GH and this A1 square divided by A1 square minus A2 square. This is the equation. Then next, now here V2 is equal to, now taking square root because V2 square is there. So we have to take the square root. So V2 is equal to under root 2GH then into bracket A1 square divided by A1 square minus A2 square. So what value we will get here, just see guys, is equal to, now under root 2GH is kept as it is. So under root 2GH is there here. A1 square's square root. So it will be A1 divided by square root of A1 square minus A2 square. Okay. Now see, what is the value of discharge? Discharge is equal to A1 V1 is equal to A2 V2. So now we are taking A2 V2 because we have to find the discharge at the second section. So that will be equal to A2 will be kept as it is. Now what value we can put for V2? For V2 we can put this equation which we have derived in the upper side. So A2 into A1 divided by A1 square minus A2 square into under root 2GH, and so the final equation we get is as Q is equal to A1 A2 divided by under root A1 square minus A2 square into under root 2GH. When we rearrange again, we can get Q is equal to under root 2GH A1 A2 divided by under root A1 square minus A2 square. Or we can say Q is equal to C under root H, or we can directly write A1 A2 under root A1 square minus A2 square under root 2G, because C is the constant of venturimeter. So the equation gives the discharge under ideal conditions, and it is also called as theoretical discharge. So actual discharge, which is less than the theoretical discharge, is given by coefficient of discharge. So the actual discharge, now this value of Q which we have derived, it is nothing but the value for theoretical discharge. So for actual discharge, there is one concept of coefficient of discharge. So when we multiply this theoretical discharge by coefficient of discharge, we will get the value as actual discharge is equal to coefficient of discharge, that is CD, into A1 A2 divided by under root A1 square minus A2 square into under root 2GH. Now for the constant of venturimeter, that is CD, coefficient of discharge, the value always varies between 0.96 to 0.98, means there is a very less difference between the theoretical discharge and the actual discharge. Now why this CD value is not 1? Now see, if CD value is 1, then what we can conclude, that theoretical discharge is equal to actual discharge, which is impossible in every case, because even though if you are measuring the flow rate, what will happen is there will be always some amount of losses considered in the, or losses occurring while we are measuring actual discharge. So therefore the coefficient of discharge is assumed as 0.96 to 0.98. So due to the variation of coefficient of discharge, venturimeters are not suitable for very low velocities. If the velocity of flow is lower, then mostly venturimeters are not preferred. Some other devices are preferred for measuring the discharge through this particular system. So see, have you understood this difference between the theoretical discharge and actual discharge? The first difference is the coefficient of discharge. If you multiply theoretical discharge by coefficient of discharge, then you will get actual discharge, or vice versa. You can see that coefficient of discharge is the ratio of actual discharge to theoretical discharge. So if actual discharge is equal to theoretical discharge, then coefficient of discharge will be 1, which is impossible in all the cases of flow. And therefore, due to this, the coefficient of discharge always varies between 0.96 to 0.98. This is the value of coefficient of discharge. And if we have to find the experimental determination, that also we are going to cover in the further lectures. That is the experimental determination of how to define or how to determine the coefficient of discharge. At the same time, while measuring theoretical discharge, what parameters we require here now? We require area of convergent section A1, we require area of throat, that is A2, we require the value of H, which is the difference between the manometric levels of both the sections, that is A1 and A2, right? So for theoretical discharge we require these three quantities basically, A1, A2 and H, so that it is easy for us to calculate the discharge through this venturimeter. And for calculating actual discharge, again we require that particular three quantities, but at the same time we require the value of coefficient of discharge. If in problems, if it is mentioned to calculate actual discharge and if CD is not given, then you can assume for venturimeter that the CD is 0.96 to 0.98. Okay, so it is a request to all to subscribe for our YouTube channel also. You will be receiving more and more updates through this, because we are learning the lecture sessions on fluid mechanics. Then further we are going for learning fluid and turbo machinery also. So basically we are getting this knowledge about the fluid dynamics. If you have any problems, you can just ask in the YouTube chat box, or you can just message me in that YouTube chat box on the video. So basically this all fluid dynamics points are there. In further lectures we are going to cover more and more the practical applications of Bernoulli's theorem. Here we have covered the concept of venturimeter, which is the example, and at the same time the application of Bernoulli's equation. Thank you very much.